Hey everybody, it's your boy, and by the time this video comes out, it may not be relevant because of the drama that happened, would have been long in the past by then. I still feel that the issues it brings up are still relevant and reiterates certain things almost a year ago now. And that is that increasingly it's becoming more and more pointless to debate the left. Now, that's not to mean that we should not debate them at all, but that we should only debate them within certain parameters. It should also teach people that still haven't had it drummed into them that you should not expect any gentlemanly behaviour or any honour from leftists. Expect only dishonourable behaviour from these people because that's how they operate. So let's just start off with debates. Now this video, obviously, as you can tell by the title, is about Ethan Klein and Steven Crowder. To be very brief, Steven Crowder and Ethan Klein had some online back and forths over a period of time during this pandemic over expert opinions. Crowder is of the belief that we should question these expert opinions because, as we've seen, they get things wrong, whereas Ethan Klein was of the opinion that we should not question them because they're the experts. And things came to a head and eventually the two decided to debate each other in public about this issue. It was to be held on Ethan's own channel, his podcast, and Crowder was going to debate him, and it was going to be a nice discussion about this issue. But of course it didn't go down like that, because Steven Crowder assumed that Ethan Klein, being a leftist, would still be honourable enough to give his word that this debate will happen and no chicanery will happen. No bullshit. And Crowder even knew that potentially this could happen, that the debate would not happen, that Klein would do anything he could to slither his way out of it, and that something like, I don't know, bringing somebody on that he doesn't want to talk to might happen. Lo and behold, literally a minute or two in, Ethan Klein isn't taking it seriously, asking a silly question about the Spartans, which actually debunks his own argument anyway. He brings on Sam Seder, and Crowder decides to rightfully remove himself from the discussion because he wasn't there to debate Sam Seder, he was there to debate Ethan Klein. And then of course there was a reaction from both sides. The leftists coping, although projecting this and saying that the right were coping, saying that Crowder was a coward, that he should have debated Seder, and that he's no better than them because he goes and surprises people in public, and apparently because he debates college students I saw once, he has no excuse to debate somebody like Klein, who is actually dumber than the average college student in America. And that especially means that he should be man enough to debate Sam Seder. Sam Seder, the attention-seeking non-entity. Whereas the right were saying that, well, Sam Seder agreed to debate nobody else but Ethan, so why should he debate this person that was not agreed to be on the panel? The whole point was that it was Ethan versus Steven, and that therefore he had a right to extricate himself from this situation because that was not what was agreed to. Now you guys will probably know what my opinion is, but I'll say it anyway. Crowder had every right to remove himself from the situation because it was not what was agreed to. It was a verbal agreement on Twitter, technically in writing, if you think about it. Klein is the one who is the coward and who is in the wrong because he's the one who slithered his way out of the debate to do a bait and switch. Because some people don't realise this, but Crowder and Seder have history that goes back a few years ago. I think it was something to do with C-SPAN. Sam Seder did something to him. Crowder realised, if I platform this guy, if I talk to this guy, it's just not going to be good for me or for anybody else because he's just there for the clicks. He's a grifter, essentially, an ideological grifter at that. He doesn't get his views from being a very good thought leader or providing great analysis. He does it by creating drama. And that's why Crowder has had a several years long boycott of Sam Seder, and Sam Seder has been trying for a very long time to try and bait Crowder into debating him to feed off his clicks, because he has a dead YouTube channel. That's the only way he can get subscribers and views. He has 1 million or a couple million subscribers on his channel, yet he only gets 10,000 views. That's how dead he is. That's how irrelevant he is in terms of mainstream political commentating on YouTube. It is perfectly valid to not want to debate somebody who is like that because it doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit society. It only benefits that person and his hangers-on and possibly his side. At that point, it's not a debate. It's a circus. I have to criticise Crowder though because he should have known better than to trust H3H3. Ethan specifically. Ethan is a known snake. He is known to just backstab anybody he can in order to get what he wants. He's done it to so many people, and I think my audience is very well aware of who he has backstabbed. Now, whether or not it was already agreed between him and Sam Seder that this would be the case, that this is how they were going to get Crowder there, is pointless, because at the end of the day, it's still cowardly to do. It just defeats the point of a debate, because the leftists increasingly have become more and more happy to debate us. Meanwhile, us on the right are becoming less and less inclined to debate them, which is funny, because at the beginning, saying in like 2013, 2014 to about 2016, we were the ones that were desperately trying to debate these people, at least on YouTube. Now, there were a few people, like Freedom Alternative at the time, who were saying, look, we can debate these people, but only under specific circumstances. He was right, because look what's happened. We're going on these people's channels, or we're doing it on our own channels, like AJW, Actual Justice Warrior, when he debated Vosh, they simultaneously streamed the debate on their respective channels. Unfortunately, this is not how we should be debating these people, because Vosh is streaming to his audience specifically, and AJW is streaming to his audience specifically, despite the fact they're meant to be debating each other. And what's the end goal of this? Are we meant to be... The end goal is to convince normies and neutrals of their respective viewpoints. But unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. They're preaching to the choir. As a moderator for AJW, I watched the debate from start to finish, and I wasn't convinced by Vosh. I never was going to be. And I doubt the moderators at Vosh's channel were going to be convinced by AJW. The only time we should be debating these people is if it's in a truly neutral venue, or as neutral as we possibly can make it. That means going to different conventions and panels and debating societies across the world and debating them there, where there are people who may not be as invested in the culture war or as informed on the issues as, say, we are, and show up the leftists for the crazies that they are. And now we've learnt a valuable lesson because of what BreadTube have been doing, and now what Ethan has been trying to do against Crowder. It reiterates what Styx was saying as well. Why debate these people? There's no rational reason to do so. It's not going to help our cause. It will only further them getting clicks and money, which we want them to have less of. And not only that, you're platforming people who are just degenerate, dishonourable scumbag. Preferably, you want to find those few people on that side who do have some sense of honour, and they're few and far between, which segues neatly into Crowder's mistake, and what conservatives and right-wingers need to continuously learn and have buried into their skulls about, and that is, do not trust leftists. Do not assume they are as honourable and righteous as you are, because they are not. They do not care. They will use any trick in the book that they can to get what they want. This is what they've always done. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do that to them also, but because we're a bit more moralistic, maybe a bit more uptight than they are, we're going to have to do it to some extent. It can't be full on the ends justify the means. There's only so much we can do. But starting from the assumption that these people are dishonourable scumbags will go a long way towards preventing the kind of bait and switches that happened to Crowder, to prevent the kinds of things that they would do to try and get us deplatformed, because apparently, according to Styx Axenhammer, when he was going to debate this leftist, he got wind from somebody who was on that person's Discord server that the primary goal of this debate was not just to further each other's knowledge, to convince people, to just have a discussion. It was to get him deplatformed, because they were trying to bait him into saying things that would get him banned. And so he pulled the plug. That's what you have to keep in mind. This is what these people will do. You have to make sure that when you're talking to them, you assume the worst, not the best of them. And when you do that, you will not be surprised by their bad behaviour, and you will be pleasantly surprised by their good behaviour. And you can acknowledge that good behaviour and cherish it for what it is, and make sure that you're prepared also for the bad that will happen. Don't be surprised that stuff like this happens. Don't be surprised that they'll do anything that they can, because how long has it been in this culture war? Some of you have been around since the mythical 2016 and you've still not learnt this lesson. I've been around for a long time. I know that they've done this. I've had to learn that lesson. Don't trust them. Don't give them anything that they can use against you. Don't be afraid to throw shade at them back. Don't be afraid to use their rules against them. Or, if you're so inclined, don't play the game at all and watch them scream, because that's funny. So anyway, that's all I've got to say on the matter. So until next time, it's been your boy, and I'll see you all later.